Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me once again. You are always most welcome. Well, thought it was time we had an April update. So, I'm going to talk to you about what I've been up to and also talk about what you can expect to see in the next few days really, I suppose. We're actually in the middle of April as I speak already. So it's high time I gave you a bit of an update. Now, of course, I'm building my Diablo Mosquito. I don't know if you can just see it in the background there. I've got it on the board in front of me, the colour call-out sheet and some of the parts. I thought I'd talk about that first, but just because I've been showing this, just made me laugh. This is several of you actually mentioned when you saw my Airfix Boys Guide to Airfix recently. And I was talking about Airfix April, and several of you said, "Oh, don't forget this Arthur Ward has got this book called Classic Kits." Well, I had the book already, and I was trying to remember if I'd actually done a video about it, and I don't think I have I? So we're going to be having a look at that. It did make me laugh though, because several of you that follow the channel closely and have done for a while will probably recognise that the very top kit it shows actually is a Matchbox. It has got all different manufacturers in it, but Matchbox Honey Stewart. Well, I don't know about Classic Kits. Maybe this should have been called Classic Hits or something else that sounds like that. Because you might remember our good friend Mr. John Bevan sent me his Matchbox Honey Stewart, and I promptly destroyed it in front of thousands of viewers on YouTube Live. Basically the tracks, for those of you who haven't seen it, the tracks strangely actually over many years, because the Matchbox tracks, they don't really age really. But these are like a metallised silver rubber. And they're just gone hard. And when I didn't try to bend them, and it literally snapped in my hand twice on camera. Bits just sheared off, and it gave some people such a laugh. I know people still talk about it today, but not really my finest hour, that one. But anyway, it's going to be in here. So this is not just Airfix, but I have to say too that this guy Arthur Ward, we spoke about his other book, which was excellent. He is a bit of an Airfix sort of fanboy, so most of it's Airfix, but it does cover everything: Aurora and Revell, and you know, a lot of the American manufacturers, pretty much everything really. So it's actually worth having a look at. So I'm going to do a separate show on that. I think I'll do it in two because it's quite a big book, this one. There's a lot to see. So I think we'll do the sort of Airfix section of it, and then we'll do all the rest as a separate section. But trust me, it's going to be quite good fun. There you go, Revell on the back, Lindbergh, all these different manufacturers. Airfix, the Airfix Tractor, Frog, they're all in here. So I know from the feedback I've got, everybody loves this nostalgia of the Matchbox and a bit of Airfix too. We're going to do some more of that, so you'll enjoy that for Airfix April. So that's the first thing, update. Second thing is, as I mentioned, the Mosquito. Now I haven't, several of you may have seen the photograph update I did. I haven't got as much done as I would like to have done, but as I've said before, when I'm not working, real work, I am shooting these videos, and the videos do take time. And those of you that haven't got your own YouTube channel, don't know much about it, would not believe how much time it really takes. Because for an hour's show, I mean, let's take an average sort of 40-minute show. It's probably my average. A 40-minute show takes about 3 hours to upload, plus another hour in preparation to put up things like the thumbnail and choose what links you want to put on at the end, the link videos and all that kind of, and it takes a lot of time. So basically you've got an hour to shoot it, best part of an hour, and then you've got 3 or 4 hours at least on top of that. So each one of these videos takes almost a day's work for me. And if it's a longer one, I know some of them have the 90-minute one recently where there was the sea flanker, but it was very long because it had so many parts. Sprue after sprue after sprue. And that was a 90-minute video. Well, that took 8 hours in total to shoot it, prepare it, upload it. The upload is very slow, and you have to monitor it to make sure it doesn't go wrong. And yeah, so people don't appreciate it. They say, "Oh, what are you building? You know, you're not built anything yet. You're not built anything this one." It's very difficult. You can't do everything. So, and I don't want to rush my Mosquito now because I'm going to enjoy this. So I will talk about that now, if I may, because I think you'll find it interesting. Those of you that are keen to see what we've done, you know that I've shown the book, the guidebook. Now, it's a very interesting point. I'm going to zoom in on this. Something interesting which I picked up on when I started producing it. So the first challenge I've had with the build, apart from time, has been, you know, the Edward Zoom set, which I've got here and here. Sorry, I've removed it. You'll still see I've not really progressed very far because I've still got most of the Zoom set here. Here it is. Now the problem that you have when you get these kits, especially on the big ones, you've got a lot of stuff here, and then when you look at all the instruments and, you know, radio, the switches, and there's all sorts of things. If you look really closely at some of these, you might just see one or two of them, how just small they are. They are minute, some of them less than a millimetre across. Really, really tiny stuff. Now the problem I've been having, and this is partly due to me being a bit, well, what did I say something the other week? Because I used to be indecisive, but now I'm not sure. And I've been sort of agonising over what to include and what not to include. So you get your Edward guide. Here's the actual instruction guide here. And the trouble is, you start looking at it and thinking, well, do I want to include all the Edward stuff? Because for me, some of you will know I don't like super glue. I've got an allergy to it. So I have got a not so smelly version, which our good friend David recommended, the odorless rocket glue from Deluxe Materials, which is very good, but it's not very quick setting. It's not quick drying. So it's not perfect. You know, it does give you an advantage in some areas, but a disadvantage in others, as is often the case in life. But the problem is, I mean, there's a part here, I'll just show you, and this isn't, I don't like the way Edward print these. I'm not trying to bash Edward today, but I do wish they'd print these with a bit more contrast, a bit more clarity. And trust me, my camera does this a lot of flattery, because to the naked eye these are very faint indeed, very, very faint. The printing's not that brilliant, and this part here, 61, is the first victim of the carpet monster. This is like a little switch that goes underneath, next to where the flare racks are and all that stuff under the seat. So it's basically, are you ready for this? I'm going to show you the actual thing. So it's basically, basically goes here. Well, anyway, I've lost that tiny lever, but here's the thing that makes me sort of slightly puzzled about it all. Here you can see where I've got to. So all I've done is, it's very early days, all I've done is stage 1 basically so far. Stage 1 I have completed. So we've got the pilot seat. I haven't actually got the seat itself, which is actually here. Here's the seat itself with his armrests as well. I did actually, in the photograph, I did actually have it plumbed in, didn't I? Let me just, let's just for your benefit see if I can do that now on camera. Plug it in. Yeah, there we go. Like that. Okay, so there we go. So now we've got the pilot's seat. And I think the lever on the left, you see there, the little red button, that's the seat adjuster. So yeah, it's starting to look very nice, isn't it? The flare racks there, they were quite challenging, I've got to tell you. Yeah, creating those and getting the painting done, because it's had to be hand painted. So yeah, that's quite tricky. But no, it's starting to shape together. But that is literally stage 1. We've also got the back of the co-pilot's, or the navigator I should say, the navigator's seat. The back, which is, you'll famously know that, you'll know that these seats famously have a window in them. You can see the window there, and it has in this case it actually has glass front and rear. By the way, we've got some very high winds outside, so forgive the noise if you hear the garage door flexing about a bit. Anyway, so that's done. So we're getting there. We're on to stage 2 basically. So there you go. You've actually seen what I've done there. Not a lot, in truth, but I'm trying to do it in a high quality way, not rush it. You know, I don't want this to be a rushed model at all. So it's 6 months' work basically, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm not expected to finish much before mid-late September. Anyway, as I said, the problem that you've got with this, and with some of these other kits, like, you know, you get the Tamiya, Mosquito, the Spitfire, the Mustang. You've got to decide, and this is the crux of it really, I'll show you the actual instructions. You start getting into a quandary about what to include from the kit and what to include from the aftermarket set. So for example, you can see here, very interestingly actually, this, I'll show you this actually. This part here, A14, that's a piece of photo etch from the kit, which is what I've included. And it doesn't actually locate in the position that they say it should locate. It actually fouls slightly where the flare racks are, and everything else is located in a way that you can't go wrong. So it's clearly a slight issue with the way that they've maybe designed that, in terms of it's got a little hole on the back. Just a tiny mistake from Tamiya. It is only a small one, nothing to get too worked up about. Just a slight error. The interesting thing is, when I looked at, I started talking about the book, the Brett Green book, to prove my point, when I've seen photos of other people's builds, including Brett Green, everybody seems to put this in a slightly, just by a millimetre or two, but a slightly different position, which shows you that something's gone wrong in the design, because it's not foolproof, and people are, like me, having to sort of interpret where to put this part. Let me see if I can show it you in here. Yes, now here they have it much higher up, and it's not actually designed to go in that position. Here we go. Here's a good photo. Here's a good photo for you. Let me just show you this. Now the other interesting thing, sorry, I should just say this before I zoom in. Other interesting thing to note when you look at these pictures is these guys are doing it a different way to me, which is much quicker, of course. But they build it and then paint it later. I tend not to do that because I've come from the sort of school of thought, you know, the Ron Dennis way of doing things, speaking a little more slowly and you know, getting things right. But I've done a lot of racing cars and things like that, motorbikes, things, and with those you really need to paint as you go along. You can't throw the kit together and then paint it later. That does not work. Well, they've done it here. We'll talk about it more in a minute actually. You'll notice that everything's in grey plastic. They haven't bothered to paint any of their parts in the way that I've just done and you've just seen from me, which I think is slightly odd. I'm not saying it's wrong at all, because they end up with a beautiful result. Anyway, we're talking about this part here, and I think that they've had the same quandary, because it does not go where Tamiya say it should go. The little locator and the little holes in it do not fit. Well, they do fit, but they then foul the rack of flares underneath. So they've moved it right up. I'm not convinced that even these guys have got it right. So I suspect that. Also, I should also point out that in the photographs that are provided, it's one of these classic examples where, and we all have this problem, don't we, when it's like a warbird that's been restored. You end up potentially with like a Frankenstein museum example, and I'll show you what I'm talking about, because here, this part isn't even shown. It's not there, basically. Let me just find it for you. Oh, there it is. Oh no, it is on this one. Ah, no, it was on the other ones, but it was the one in this book. But on some of the examples of the finished aircraft, it's not there at all. There's obviously several different versions. This one? No, I think it's the one that's in here. Let's see if I can show you that. That just, this is when you start going down the, you know, getting led down a certain path, and then you find out that things are not what you thought, and you start becoming bit confused about what you should be doing and exactly where things should go. And what happens is, or the cause of it I should say, is usually that they've gone and, you know, taken something out in a museum example because it's not actually needed. Is it that one? No, not that one. Is it that one? Not that one. Actually, I know it's my mistake this. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this plate here is shown in a completely different position than what Tamiya tell you to put it in. So here's the actual photo from Tamiya's own guide. We're talking about this plate here, which I think it's for shoving maps in and things like that. And this is much, much higher, even higher than Brett Green's got it. But Tamiya have you put it much lower down, and it's really confusing. Now the other thing I was talking about was these parts here, where there's a little sort of like a dial, and something has clearly been changed on this new restored version. Because that does not bear any resemblance at all to either the Tamiya parts in that particular location or to the Edward zoom set. They just don't. So something has changed. It probably means that this is a later update. Some sort of electronics have replaced the dial or whatever. Now you do get this a lot, and it makes it a little bit hard to decide. And I'm very bad at making decisions, I've got to say. This is why Took me many years to decide to build the kit at all. But the fact is, if you are a perfectionist and you have all these choices put in front of you, it becomes really difficult. I've had my head swirling with this for weeks, and I still have, if I'm honest. What to include, what not to include, whether to use this, do I use the instruments here, or do I use the instruments that are provided in the kit from Tamiya. Any of you that have built this kit, please give me your comments and feedback on this. I'll be very interested to hear it, because I'm at such an early stage I can go in any direction really. But yeah, I mentioned there was this little tiny part, teensy lever thing, and this is where I think Eduard take it a bit too far, because their photo etch parts, some of these are so, that literally is probably under a millimetre, and I got it bent as they told me to, and then it slipped out of the tweezers. And I do often use blue tack sometimes. I didn't have any blue tack on the tweezers at the time, and it's just zoomed off down here somewhere, and it's gone. This thing is so minute, it's one of the smallest parts I think I've ever handled, and it's like when I was talking about the flanker, the C flanker, when I said the carpet monster's going to have a field day here, it's like that with these really. So I've sort of made a conscious decision, having had this experience, that these really absolutely minute parts, I'm probably not going to bother, because you're not going to really see them anyway. And this was under a seat, something in the cockpit, you're not going to see it, you're not. When that's finished, it'll be invisible pretty much. So I'm just getting to the point that has been a major factor in me, because I said in March I'm going to start this kit, Officially I started it mid-Feb. Here we are, it's mid-April, 2 months later. And I still haven't made progress beyond stage 1. I've finished stage 1. But that's it. So we're on to stage 2. So that's when you put in the pilot's actual seat and seat padding and all that stuff. And then the parachute goes in, and I think it's the parachute, and then you do the navigator's seat, etc., etc. So that's where I'm at with the Mosquito, really. But it's strange. So just going back to what I said about Brett Green. So these guys, what do you do? How do you tackle these situations? Now, when I did the Spitfire, so I've got experience and plenty of it here. Did the Spitfire, done the Mustang, both fairly nice kits I think, fairly nice models, finished models. But I didn't do it like this, Now I know that the Mustang is the longest build ever for me, which always baffles people when I tell them, especially if they've built it themselves. Because it took me 320 hours in total. Now I did add some time into that, through my own fault if you like, because I chose to go for the metallised finish. Some of you will be saying, well, that should make it much quicker then, because you haven't had to paint it. It doesn't work out like that. You've got to prepare every mating surface very, very carefully, otherwise it just won't glue together. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about that one, but the point is, I wouldn't have done it like this. And this is, I say, I'm not criticising these guys, just when you see the final product, it's beautiful, stunning, yeah? It just interests me the way that people go about it. I think this is a much faster build. You can see they're just whipping it together in no time, And if I was to do what they've done here, I would indeed, have it together in no time. But I would just say, I said I was not going to criticise. I said I wasn't going to criticise. It just shows how people do things differently. But if you look really closely, when he has finally painted it, and then they basically just spray everything in the cockpit green, you can see here. And then they start to detail up various parts. So what they've done is decided that pretty much all of it is cockpit green. We'll make that so, and then we'll post paint the detail parts later. Well, I have to admire them as well, because I think it was Marcus Nichols that did this. Chris Warchop. Chris Warchop, I think, did a lot of the painting. Now, if you look carefully, you can see he's got his spice rack, as everybody calls it, the flare rack, because it looks like a row of spice bottles, doesn't it? Well, he's post-painted that, and that's no small achievement, I can tell you. Quite tricky, and it was tricky enough to paint, full stop. But essentially what they've done is they've looked at it and they've gone, look, it's all green, it's all cockpit green, spray it all cockpit green, I've done with it, And then they've added the things that they feel are not cockpit green later. But look at this, they have slipped up, I'm afraid. I think a mistake has been made, because if you look very closely, they haven't painted the seat adjustment lever. You can see that? Whoops. So they're not perfect. They've done the cockpit floor, this and they've used raw umber paint with a bit of lighter fluid. They've done that really nicely. Look at that, it's lovely to create the wood effect. Very, very proper impressive, that is. But yeah, I did notice that even in the final stages before they put the cockpit together, he's definitely forgotten to paint either the button or the handle on his seat adjuster. So nobody's perfect, you see. So I saw that, and although they were clearly building this at quite a pace, you know, I sort of looked at it and thought, well, yes, but you know, you've not got your handle and your button. You haven't done that, have you? But these things take time, don't they? You know, they do. I've had, you know, most of you know that I've had this journey in the last couple of years where I had a lot of kits I didn't enjoy building, really didn't, and this is not one of them. So although I'm being very slow at it, I will pick it up a bit. I think once we get going, I'll get into it, and I get into a rhythm, and you know, and I'm sure it's the same with a lot of us if you're a little bit out of practice, but out of, you have to get into the rhythm of a kit, especially when it's a really big build, and sort of find your pace, and then it's about, for me, it's about making decisions. I have to have a path in my mind, a plan of how I'm going to go about it, and how I'm going to tackle certain issues and challenges. And at the moment I'm a little bit bogged down with this Edwards zoom set. Once we've gone past the Edwards zoom set, I'll be fine until we get to things the other aftermarket parts like the ejector chutes. That's another one that's going to give me problems, I think, psychologically, I mean, not physically. But yeah, and I say, you know, you look at some of these things like little tiny levers, and I'm thinking, well, am I really going to invest time in something that, and it's not a case of, well, yeah, but you know it's there, blah blah. I'm probably not going to. It's not that I want to cut any corners or make it quicker, but some of these parts are so stupidly small. Frankly, they are quite absurdly small. I mean, I'm going to show you again, just so you know what I'm rambling about. Let's just take a deep dive in here. Now, if these are in a very obvious place, and especially the brightly coloured ones that catch the eye, then yes, I have to come in even closer because it's so small. But you can see some of these little tiny parts here. Some of those, even at this scale, I question whether they are necessary at all. When you see, you know, the final aircraft looks like this, yeah. So let's put this in perspective. Even though you can, you know, look in at it at an angle, frankly, I think even with the 20 times zoom I've got here, I think it would struggle to pick up whether there is or isn't some of those tiny little levers, because you can't physically get inside the cockpit to see them anyway. So those perfectionists, and I'm speaking to people like me in particular now, the perfectionists amongst us, and it's perfectionist doesn't mean perfect. No, in fact it's a curse really. It burdens you with these things, and you start thinking, and you start to beat yourself up and agonise over it, and I do this all the time. And this is where I've really been dragging my feet at this start of this build, so there we go really. That's that. There'll be more updates soon. I'll be moving on to the seat belts and the seat cushions and these. And trust me, I think that you can tell it's probably going to be quite nice. Now, something new that I want to just talk about briefly, I will do a separate video on it, but just a quick early look. I was presented by a relative of mine with something very, very interesting just yesterday. And it is, and so I'm not going to get it all out, but just to give you a flavour. A company called Flugzeugwerk, or Aeroplane Works. A chap called Bo Monroe. And this chap is an American guy, and he's in Illinois. And he's had involvement with this company Shapeways, who do all this 3D printing. Some of you will have seen Shapeways' work. They do all manner of things, little figures and, you know, 3D bombs and additives, and there's a website that he's now got set up as well, which I will show you with some really remarkable 3D. So if you're interested in 3D, I'm going to do a little show just about this, because it's an education for me. I don't know much about it myself, to be honest. Nor do I intend to get into 3D as such. I'm not going to buy a 3D printer. I'm sorry, but I think you can go down a rabbit hole and spend a huge sum of money for things you don't need. I personally question more and more as I get older, more and more the need for some of this aftermarket. But when you see some of the things that are on the market, like these people are producing, it's so exceptional. You look at it and you just think, oh God, you know. And he's doing work that, in this case, it's a Fokker D3. Now this is actually basically a 3D printed model kit. And I say I'll go into the full details in a separate show. But basically, he's got FUD and FXD. Now, this kit dates back to 2016. It's not new, but it's frosted detail plastic, and it uses a strato cyst object. Object works by printing out dots of the acrylic goop layer by layer, so a 3D printer basically. And what it is basically, it's an acrylic photopolymer resin basically. And it comes out, you know, you use CA glue, super glue, cyanoacrylate. And the only thing you have to watch out for in these is that they are very delicate, not cheap I don't think, so 3 things. And finally that you just need to clean up the parts before you use them. But let me show you why I am suddenly interested in this. Because it was handed to me and I thought, oh, what's this? You know, will I be interested? Wow, my eyes sort of popped out immediately. Let me show you, just give you a taster of why. I'm going to zoom you in. When you see this, I think you'll be quite impressed. So this is, you're going to see here, is one piece, one single piece of this 3D acrylic polymer resin, 3D printed. Now this is the Fokker. I've got to be very gentle with this. It's the Fokker D3, the basic fuselage structure, in one piece. It's absolutely incredible, and it weighs, it must weigh about 3 grams this. It weighs nothing. It's unbelievable, and it's so delicate, so delicate. Look at that. So I think you're going to find this quite an interesting one to have a nosy at, you know. And the idea is this kit comes, you've obviously got the main fuselage section there in one, and then here we've got one of the wings. Now I should point out as well, again I'll explain more when I do the show, but this has actually got a couple of formers on the top here where my finger is. That you cut off, that back one, and this one is also cut off. These are like supports, part of the 3D printing structure. But look at the detail we've got here. This is one piece, and again this one weighs about 3-4 grams, if that, 3 grams probably. Look at this. That is truly remarkable. And the basic concept of the kit is you'll take these wings, and you obviously have to be very careful with them because they're quite delicate, as is that. Very delicate there. And then you've got all these other parts. You've got, and it's all printed, and it isn't coming like they are when you do your own 3D printing with this huge, great amount of structure. And this is the thing that I like about this. When I saw it, and my eyes popped out, because I think a lot of this 3D printing that we see today, whilst the actual product detail is fantastic, it's got a lot of clutter and a lot of cleanup, and this seems to have very minimal cleanup. It's absolutely amazing to look at. So we'll be going through that and looking at this in great detail. It's going to amaze you. It's going to amaze you. I'll show you the website of the chap, this Bowman Rowe. I'll show you this website, and I'll show you some of the products. So if any of you are watching, I've got the Qatari Spitfire, or the Wingnut Wings kit. You're going to be in heaven, because you're going to see some stuff you're going to want. So I better warn you, don't watch my show if you want to save some money. You've got some big bills, you better just not watch that one, because you're going to see things on there and you're going to have your mouth drop open, and you're going to reach for your credit card pretty quickly, I think. Anyway, that's it from me for the April roundup, April update. I thought it would be quite good to, sorry my zoom's a bit jerky today. I thought it'd be quite good to tell you where I'm at with the Mosquito, and yes, I am going to try and push on and make more effort on that. I've had to work a little bit more work than normal recently, so that should calm down now, so I'll probably have a little bit more time. So I think you'll see the progress gently start to ramp up. You're going to see these updates. I did say I wanted to do them fortnightly for the Mosquito. Well, this is the first one, so it's only monthly so far. But yeah, I'm going to try and do it fortnightly, and I'll give you an update. And I want to, once I decide and get clear in my mind how I'm going to tackle it, then we can really move it, increase the pace a little bit. I think I've kind of got that now. So stay tuned. So we've got those updates coming every fortnight probably. I'm going to do this this book review, so I think a lot of you will really enjoy that. And then do this review and talk about this amazing 3D printed, beautiful lightweight models here. Which, by the way, the idea is you actually cover it with tissue to actually get the effect of the fabric on the wings. And I'll go through it with you, and you can see, just a final taster here. When you sort of see, it reminds you of Wing That Wings in many, many ways. This, if you have a look at this. You can see here things like a little fuel tank going in, fuel tank installation, putting in your rigging, building your fuel tank. The front fuel and oil tank going in, and so on and so forth, and then the turtle deck going on. Those of you that like Wing Not Wings are probably going to have your eyes out on stalks when you see this, because it's just the fact that it's got that delicacy, something beautifully delicate about these, and it doesn't have all that over-the-top cleanup that a lot of the 3D printed designs, because it's the designs that's the problem, obviously not your own 3D printer. And I say I'm no expert in this field at all. Please don't start asking me about 3D, because I don't know anything about it really. Honestly, I'm a great believer of, don't start pretending you know things you don't know. So there's much greater experts out there, but Phil Flory's one of them actually, because he's gone into it, hasn't he, really, recently. But the ones at home where you get these designs, they do come. Even the one I showed you for the mini base, the gear legs on that flanker, it had this great big sort of frame around it. There was a lot of matrix attachment. And it was going to be a major job of ultimate care and attention to detail to get that beautiful gear leg out of there cleanly without overcutting and chopping off some parts you don't want to chop, or equally leaving parts on that shouldn't be there. I thought that when we went through the review. So something different, isn't it? Let's have a look at that. I think you'll find it very interesting. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Just a brief one today, a quick update. So stay tuned, we've got more interesting kits coming through as well. We're going to be having another tribute to Ayrton Senna, because we're coming up to the anniversary of, sadly, the 30th anniversary of Senna's death, of course, on the 1st of May. So toward the end of the month we're going to have a bit more on Senna, and one of the viewers, Ian, is going to be loaning me his B-Max Lotus 1999T. Which of course was the 9070, the active ride car from 1987. I'm getting mixed up now. It is 1990, isn't it? Memory's going. Anyway, it's the 1987 turbo car with the Honda engine, and it was the first car to win with active suspension in Formula 1, and it won, I think, 2 races. It won in Detroit and it won at Monaco. This is the one I talked about in my recent Senna talk, and I said that Senna kind of got lucky. It's probably the only time he got lucky, and actually won. I wouldn't say not through his own merits, because that wouldn't be fair at all. He was clearly brilliant in that car. But he did get a good slice of luck that day. He seemed to be very lucky at Monaco, full stop, didn't he? But of course, Nigel Mansell's exhaust, he had a problem with his crack in the exhaust manifold affecting the turbocharger, and he just lost power and he was out, despite having dominated half the race, and Senna won it. So we're going to look at that car, thanks to Ian. So those of you that enjoyed the McLaren review, you're in for a real treat. And I haven't seen a B-Max before, I don't think. Or have I? Did I do the McLaren? That was a B-Max, maybe. Anyway, not to worry, we'll see that soon. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching. Stay well, stay safe. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, give me a 10 out of 10. And subscribe if you haven't already, and if you are a subscriber, make sure you ding the notification bell, clicking the all option to make sure you get updated with every new video I produce. And that's it until next time. So thanks very much for joining me. Stay well, stay safe, Until next time, thanks a lot, and bye for now.